Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I felt like having a therapy session. I don't know what I'm gonna say. I got a lot of smiles in my face, but it's one of those situations where I'm feeling okay. Actually, I feel pretty good, even though there is some stress in my life. But getting under the cover because it's cold, and I think the acoustics are better. If I can stand to, I will record this way, man. Y'all know I am raw. I don't care at all. I don't think anybody cares less than I do in regards to this kind of thing. I think I've created the lane for me to be able to look absolutely insane, so to speak, minus like all the bad stuff that comes with that, I guess you could say, the negative connotations of that. But I think like the confines of sanity, I think I'm trying to carve out a lane where I'm not nestled in between that. Off the spectrum, is that what they call it? I want to be someone that is highly functional off the spectrum. I guess that's how I would identify. Everybody wants to identify something. That's what I'll say that. I'm a man that is like that. Since we can make up whatever we want to be, we can be whoever we want to be, right? I'll be that. Anyway, I'm just joking around. Honestly, I just got off the phone with somebody from the Metro side of things. I guess this guy is the officer, the lead officer that's supposed to take care of any of these claims that go to the BBB, which I hit them with. And so it's one of those situations where I'm like, okay, his intention is to give me my money. Give me like my refund. And then handle whatever other settlement situations that may take place. And for me, I'm like, man, I don't care about none of that, dude. Yeah, what I need from Metro is to help me get away from T-Mobile. That's exactly what I told him. But he's not a sales guy. He said, well, let's make sure we get you your money first. So I understood, like, it's like, all right, everybody's interest is wrapped up in this stuff. And I tell you, man, I'm too human for a lot of the stuff that people are doing out there in business. It's like, I understand what y'all doing, but I don't like, it's not me, man. I'm a person to person kind of guy. I'm gonna want to talk to you as a person, even when you're being professional. It's just my nature. And so it doesn't work. These two worlds don't work. That's why I don't like being a pro. That's why I didn't like doing security, because I'm like, I'm gonna talk to you like an actual human being, bro. I'm not gonna talk to you like a professional because I don't believe in it as it pertains to myself. Now, as it pertains to everybody else, yeah, you got to be a pro because y'all not wired like me. But like, if in my head, oh my god, it's like being a bad actor, man. It's like running around saying lines that you don't believe in. That's what it feels like to me. It's just I'm too much of a creative. And so it becomes a situation where I end up betraying the necessary position I'm supposed to take. Start talking to people like human beings. Start saying I'm okay when I should be asking for more money and stuff like that. I don't care, man. I've never been about money, bro. Even when I need it, I don't like it. I don't like this because it makes me have to be like that, and I don't want to be like that. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's an agreement in place because as everything else is in place because it works. Not necessarily because it works for us. It's because it works for others who've been doing it for so long, and now they want to keep doing it because that's what it is, and everybody's interest is wrapped up in it. So it's politic this, politic that. I can't be a human because I got that person's interests involved, and now we're at war with them, and we got about 8 other cases just like yours. So even if yours goes a certain way, we got to make sure this one's lines. Just give me my money, bro. Thank you. Because all the webs that y'all weave, I can see them all. Even if I can't see them all, I can see them all, and they stress me. It's one of the reasons why I don't deal with a lot of stuff. Because I don't see one thing. I see a million things when I look at it. And y'all know that. I think that's the gift and the curse of this brain. It is what confines me into a single space, to analyze everything from one single space, because I see it as myself surrounded. So it's just a bunch of stuff to look at and shield myself from, better yet, I'd imagine. But I don't know, man. I don't think most of my issues make any sense, which is why I identify them as just simple brain malfunction or what have you, or some type of thing that would require this therapy session would be necessary, because at the end of the day, a lot of stuff that I feel is riddled in old fears that serve me not anymore. Situations that were attached to mommy issues. Mama's been gone for almost 10 years. You know, situations that were attached to childhood traumas that I don't hardly even remember. You know, like the insecurities that were attached to physical features that I don't see in the mirror anymore. Just stuff that doesn't serve me anymore. You know, it's like a lot of the stuff that I say in this camera, I struggle with in my own life, which is why I feel like I'm so good at being able to tell people, work on your weaknesses. This is what happens when you don't. Because I know. I actually know. Procrastination leads to nothing, leads to you not liking yourself and all these different other things, man. I know. And I lived them from within a very, very, I guess you say inquisitive mind. Inquisitive, is that the word? Looking into that, I don't think that's the right word. But intricate mind, somebody who picks things apart too much. And so that's what it is, man. That's what it is. I find myself here wanting to have a therapy session after having a conversation with somebody that once was intent on getting me my money. It didn't stress me out. I was actually very comfortable speaking with him, and I think he understood where I was coming from. But I just realized when I was asking him to get me out of the T-Mobile side of things, if he could help me with getting out of that situation, I realized his actual position, and it helped me understand all the other webs he weaved. I'm like, oh man, this guy is like the guy that has to be at war with the BBB. He's not the guy that's going to actually help me do anything. He has to word everything a certain way because he's dealing with lawyers. It's like, this is what happens when you involve companies like the BBB. It becomes they're afraid you're going to sue them for much more than what it's worth. And it's like, man, that's not even in my thoughts. It should be, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. As an American chasing the American dream, I'm supposed to be looking to sue people for like 30 times what it's worth. But I'm wired weird. I'm wired in a way that doesn't get that. I just don't make it happen for myself in that way. And it's not in my heart to do so. I'm not malicious. And I think that is malicious, I think. What do they call it, litigious? I don't know. I don't have the word in my head, but when you're going out suing people all the damn time, yeah, it's cool. You can get a bag that way, man. There's a lot of people doing a lot of wrong, man. You can stumble into a lot of different situations, and I don't know. It is what it is. If people are going to do wrong, I see a lot of worse ways to be opportunists. But for me, I just find myself stressed out at the idea of even putting on the suit and going down there to the courtroom. You know what I mean? That's my thing. It's like simple peace of mind things matter more to me than things that really, really matter, which is why this doesn't work. You know what I mean? This is why my mind and my life doesn't work. But at the same time, it's like, because I'm wired this way, I find myself in position to be able to say these things for which are never being said anywhere else. And so it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm all right. Even for what I'm not, I know that I can be something that can do something that may be something that, infinite. Whatever can happen with words is possible when I use my mouth to say whatever comes out of it. So when I think of the positive things and the things that I want and all the things I've ever dreamed of and the world being a better place or whatever, and how I surmise it, this gives me an opportunity to just say all those things that I've always thought my whole life. How I realized people were running into walls, so to speak, or how I realized it was an entity in place trying to keep us from ever reaching our highest peak or what have you. All these different things I say a million times over, I'm finally able to articulate, but we're always thoughts in my head or prayers in my heart or what have you. Perceptions, however you see it. So I wanted to, also share the latest prayer that came to mind. Not necessarily a poem or anything like that, but it was just what the Lord put in my heart to pray for. It was people who are struggling with specifically the canes and walkers. He didn't say elderly people necessarily, not limited to them, of course, but anybody that happens to have a cane or a walker. And I didn't know the significance of that and still don't. So maybe it will be revealed to me why my mind tapped into that when I asked if there was anything extra that he wanted me to think or pray for. I kind of wanted to document that because the last one had something to it, and then the one after that kind of led to a really decent point, I guess, even though it wasn't anything to it at all. So I suppose I'd make a running theme to figure out if there was anything that would come to mind, bring it back to you guys if it is, and that was the latest one, walkers and canes. So if you happen to be on a cane or a walker, just know that I said a prayer for you. And of course, these are things that I was also able to say that, for myself, it's like I take for granted the ability to walk straight or be able to run around or work out. My genetics and how they work in my favor to whatever it is I need to do. And just the temporary understanding that, the body will age gracefully, and as it does, you'll have to deal with whatever you do. And we want to be encouraging within our prayers to help not only pray for those who are going through that, but to also remind ourselves that maybe we too should use some appreciation in regards to what we can do. Um, you know what I mean, and just live it out that way without welcoming anything into our lives that would otherwise, not be positive. I think a lot of times when we speak like this, sometimes we say words, and those words sometimes bring about the truth that otherwise isn't the truth if you don't say it. Now, I don't know if that's the truth or not, but nevertheless, there's certain things that I just am aware that I should not say. And I think we are so reckless with our words, and we're so intentional. And sometimes when I'm angry, I'm intentional. And sometimes when I'm angry, I'm self-intentional. Like, I can't, I am not I. And this is how it goes. Willing myself into either that fate or into a mindset that has me fearing that fate, which has coerced me off my actual point of emphasis. So for me, it's just to try to make positivity manifest from within my mouth, regardless of what it is I'm trying to describe, if to allow the imagination to manifest whatever energy you will from in regards to what I suggest, without actually saying this will be or that could be and we will wait for it. None of that has to be the case. And I was thinking about something today in regards to trying to assess why I choose certain things or why I don't choose certain things. Just in general, open-ended as it may sound, I was trying to zero it into the understanding that those choices, they made up an understanding that derived from something that I either looked at and decided I wanted, or looked at and didn't want, or had some scale as I'm measuring things, and therefore this was what was better, or chose by taste. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we don't know what comes with anything that we ask for. So you can be paralyzed in the understanding that you may want something. You may believe you know what comes with it in terms of whether it's wise to want it or unwanted, or not want it rather. And then you can live with the understanding that regardless of what your wisdom tells you, you don't actually know what happens when you get it. You see, that's what works against us is faith. We have to have faith that the wisdom will apply, and to apply the right choice based on what we think may or may not happen. But at the end of the day, we never really know. And so that's why I leave so much room for a higher power. And I think this is something that I've said many times, but I think it's worth saying again, because I think it does make up a lot of what we deal with and how we perceive sin and all these different things. What we want, what we don't want, whether or not that God in the sky will allow us to want what we want without punishing us or what have you, or whether we have to be at war with him to deal with ourselves. And then it's the pain people go through that has to accompany them whether they do good or not, that they have to try to wrestle with in regards to their faith while still choosing good energy. It's hard. I send my prayers out to anybody going through any type of bereavement. This is why I pray for the bereaved so much. I call them an entirely separate list, I guess you can say, of people who have lost people. I pray for that list, and I combine them with the other quote-unquote prayer list. But like, that's what it is. Like, I had to humble myself to add some people to that list, man, because there's been so many people who've lost people this week. Now, watching what Ricky Smiley is going through, comedian, sending warm energy to his family and prayers to his family as requested. He lost his son, and it's one of those situations where I just understand that he was saying to us, like, he was distraught, and he was obviously so very distraught in regards to turning on the camera and just letting us feel his raw emotion. And he was saying he didn't know how people survive it. And I understood that, I could only but understand from afar, having lost my mother, not a child, but, grief, it can really knock you off your feet and then keep you in a space where it just continues. You just find yourself looking up and time just keeps on going. And you got to either choose to heal and learn to make yourself okay in that space over time, with them being a good memory, a great memory. Or you can let that longing consume you like it does for so many. I don't know what necessarily works for everyone. Prayer obviously worked for me. The prayers of others really, really worked for me. And praying for others definitely drove it home as well. I think that's what it really comes down to. You just expand your love, I suppose. I don't know what to say in regards to grief. Expanding means loving more people so that you have more to love, more people to lean on, so that you have more support. But with more people comes more responsibilities to be considerate of others. And sometimes you just can't be when you're grieving. You need to draw from others' energy, and there's not a whole lot you can leave them with depending on your personality. And maybe you don't want them around at all, but you probably need them. It's a rough thing, grief, because depending on your personality, you might be feeling like the next person you love, you gotta lose again, or you have to go through the grief, or that the grief is something that follows you, so that everybody you know is gonna have to face that. It's just that type of war that goes through a lot of people's lives when they lose too many people at once, or go through a certain type of grief or what have you. You just start to wonder if that thing is following you. I think prayer, group prayer, lots of prayer, different people's prayer for you and others, that type of stuff is the type of healing that I believe works for me. That's what kind of got me out of it. I don't know what works for everybody. I truly don't, man. But I know that something does, because I've seen so many people heal and move on and, stop the process of being dark in regards to that grief. And it's just it's not something that necessarily has to go away, but it is something that you can learn to live with, wear it like a scar, and don't hurt as much, if at all, right? But at the end of the day, man, I've learned that every good thing that comes to us comes from one place. And if you know how he works, it's all a cycle system. It's all like he does with water. Comes down, recycles it, goes into the earth, comes back into the air and back down to the earth again. It's a cycle, and so is life. So as we look at it that way, we gotta not have our whole souls married to the life as it pertains to expecting that people will be immortal. And for me, I lived my whole childhood with that fear kind of directing my entire being. I was fearful of my mother passing away. It was the basis of my real pain, because I think I connected that to being left unsafe, as to which I had seen trauma. So it's like, if mommy's not here, then obviously I'm vulnerable to whatever taking place again. So for me, it was like her mortality was wrapped up in my mortal safety, as well as all of the different emotional and spiritual and maternal attachments that were natural. There too was the psychological connection that became a deep phobia, I guess you could say, for myself, that kept me in place for a good portion of my childhood. Cost me some serious moments where I was able to have like anxiety attacks. I think I may have mentioned this in one of my therapy sessions many ago, but real like fits that would happen in public in front of the principal. Once I ran the principal office, demanded he call my mother, in a rage of fit, because I was afraid something had happened to her. I had made it up in my mind that something had happened. And see, that was the thing. It was like, when you have the type of mind that I had without any direction, your imagination, it betrays you. Like, if I was able to talk to myself as a grown-up now, I would know how to navigate that child completely, because I know what he was dealing with. But at this point, looking back on it, there was just absolutely no direction. No direction, no source from which to draw from to tell me how to be okay with what it was I was feeling, and how to cope with the mind that I had dealing with those things. So it became a situation where I just struggled with that for a good portion of time, and eventually it went away. Those panic attacks and things of that nature, I don't think it lasts longer than a couple of months, but they were reoccurring. And so, the fear of grief can put different phobias and fears and anxieties in your heart, depending on your type of personality and mind. So I know that the facing of grief can do so much more. But I will tell you the truth. Perception and one's own imagination, in certain instances, can definitely be worse. I can say that from within my own head. Maybe not as it pertains to the deaths of people and things of that nature, but I can assure you, your anticipation and your imagination in regards to what can go wrong, a lot of times you don't really perceive how you'll handle those circumstances as they come your way. Maybe you don't see it exactly the way it is. Maybe you'll blow it up to be even worse than the way it may be, depending on what it is. Far be it from me to know the specifics of your situation and if this applies, but I know I've done that to myself. So that's what I'm here to say. It can be worse sometimes in your head. Whatever the case may be. As I learned to deal with my head and look and reflect on how I was, I think the one thing that I needed was just some understanding is that I didn't have an outlet, for all of the feelings that I had, and no direction as to start the process of building anything, which is what a young boy needed, from at least I thought I did, to build something. I think those anxiety attacks went away once I started joining the band. I guess it was a samba band, I guess you could say, a school samba band. I think that was when I decided to join the band, and those attacks immediately went away once I started building and started throwing myself into the music. You know what I mean? Immediately I went from someone who was having anxiety and bashful about certain things to being out front and center as the only snare drum in the entire band. So, it's been extreme highs, extreme lows. Obviously, if you're growing up in Hollywood, there are going to be opportunities to perform. So I did that. You know what I mean? It's one of the reasons why I'm so comfortable on this camera, because I kind of grew up performing, doing plays and stuff like that. Not professional ones, but ones that were done at the little children's club that I used to go to and stuff like that. So, it was an interesting life before I turned on this camera, you guys. I tell you, it was interesting how many different walks I've been in just my 38 years of life. But as I see where I'm at right now, I just realize so much of what I struggle with today has to do with things that just were not necessarily in place properly, being built back then. Just didn't build. And as I sit up and I wonder about how I find myself in certain realities, certain circumstances, I just look back and I see that there were so many unchecked things that could have otherwise enriched potential. Could have brought out the potential in myself if I would have just had a few things set straight in regards to how I perceive my own self and what it is that I thought I could do. So you don't regret those things at all. if you're me, because I find myself who I want to be able to relate to certain things. And that's I guess the beauty of all experiences. It gives you the relatability to whatever it is that you've gone through. Somebody else may be going through it, and you custom built perfect for them in regards to helping them through it. So that's why I don't hate my experiences. I think there's enough people who've gone through random custom life you know what I mean? Everybody has their own thing. I remember hearing a song by I think it was Bone Thugs, Why Does Everybody's Story Sound the Same? Your life sounds so familiar. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever heard that, but it's like, you know, I don't think I'm one of those type of individuals. I don't think you're gonna find too many people who see the world like me, gone through stuff I've been through the way that I've been through it. Just a very unique walk in this world, man. And to you know, to have the confidence to share, it's something that I really had to build within myself, man. No different than anything else that it takes to break yourself out of insecure spaces. You know, you got to just take this first step and then build. And so what you don't want to do with a person that overthinks is raise them to look as if everything that they're dealing with is a mountain. You don't want an overthinker to perceive everything as a very tall task. I think that's where we might have went very wrong with myself. For whatever reason, everything that I had to do seemed so very steep. It was like Mount Kilimanjaro for me to just do simple tasks. And the more I thought about those tasks, the more steep those hills became for me perception-wise. So I think allowing someone to see themselves get the first step in getting something right, and then having a proper mindset and overall culture about education, you know, everything that has to do with just progression of self. I had bad culture in my mind. I allowed school to turn into something that was an equivalent to like going into the dungeon or something. Like, just bad culture in my head. For whatever reason, homework was considered like some type of poison pill that needed to not ever be taken. Like, I had very, very warped mindset as it pertains to my education, and the determination to not do that homework, regardless of how they judged me. I was defiant against that judgment to all, you know, to really defiant. I don't care if you call it a failure. That's what you call it. I call it whatever I choose. I'll learn the information when I'm ready, that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I was intelligent, but not intelligent enough to simplify life for myself. Just do the work. You make life easy for yourself. I could think a million webs around something, but to simply make it so that it's very easy to do within my own skull was always the difficulty. And so that's what I ended up doing in regards to school. I would look at everything around it. I don't want this, and this, and this is what they're doing. That caused me more stress than a couple hours of homework and doing a test. Story of my life. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I would do it. I'd be sitting at the house miserable because I didn't want to go to school, dealing with whatever would make me miserable. You know what I mean? But perception-wise, it was like, I'm home, I'm comfortable in my safe space, and I can't stand this. I don't like myself, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to move. I don't like how I look. All this other negative stuff. And that's where I would have helped myself. That's where I would have helped myself. What are you saying to yourself? What are you doing to help yourself feel better about yourself? Are you taking a step up that mountain, or are you taking steps away from that mountain? Like, how are we approaching it? And so that was my problem. There was no one saying, how are you approaching it? You know, nobody there to help me say, hey, there's another path up. There's another path up. Heck, you might not even need to go up this mountain. There's a whole nother path somewhere else. It looks a whole lot better. Like, there was a lot of different things that could have been said to me that just, I don't think were said or I was receptive to. However that played itself out. So it is what it is, man. I think that's a good thing, though, because now I know what can be said to help someone like myself, etc. I can give you all of this, you know what I mean? And I appreciate it, you know? So we have to look at our point of view and our struggles, especially when you see other struggles and other paths. It's like mine Mine was mine, you know. I did my path. For better or for worse, I did mine. And I think that's what we have to kind of cope with. I don't like saying, oh, somebody else's path is worse, so therefore, I don't think so. I don't think that's the right way to approach. I think a lot of times we try to weigh our struggles against someone else's, and I think that's the very essence of what ultimately brings us down. It's that crab in the barrel. Oh, if you down, I'm up. See, at least his life was worse. That's that same stuff that makes somebody else not as important as you, so therefore you can discard them and everything that comes with that. Everything that comes with that. It starts here. And we don't even know it. A lot of us just say that stuff. He got a worse life than mine, at least as I am. And every one of those passing the bucks turn into some type of corruption, some type of evil, some type of something. It turns into that. As I always say, relaying the energy. That's where it starts. And so that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to get rid of certain certain words in my vocabulary, certain suggestive things that would otherwise be matter of fact. Even in my own head, I used to be like, I don't like this. I'm angry. I hate. No, I don't say those words no more. Or I'm depressed in I'm feeling. No, I'm going to God. Holy Spirit, I don't feel too good about what I'm feeling, but nevertheless, I know that you're the truth. So me being defiant in regards to you is never what I'm trying to do. So if you're telling me it's going to be all right and my anxiety is telling me it's not, then clearly my anxiety is being disrespectful to you. So at this point, I just ask you help me manage my anxiety while I lean on your truth. Those type of things I'm saying in my head instead of I'm angry, I'm unhappy, this sucks, man. I want to, all these different I wannas that would never lead to no kind of positive thinking. You know what I want to do? I want to help everybody who's in the I wanna space keep going so that they can take the wisdom in their heart and help somebody else who I want to not. Just simply don't do it. You know what I mean? And that's what it gets down to. You want to see the fruit in your life getting better. And some people are really having tough times, and that's what I think this can do for them, is help them through these hard times, give them some deity to believe in, or give them some pointed direction for which to find him, rather, and to get that relationship going so that they don't have to sit in their sadness and their bereavement or whatever it may be and turn into a worse version or of an indifferent person, you know, who don't care no more, no less. See, a lot of us, we have that culture of indifference in us, but it ain't in our hearts. So if we can get that culture out the way, then otherwise we just figure out how to best, utilize love in us. But some people have that in their hearts. They don't want for others because of the pain in their hearts. They hate others. Like, they must hate others because that's the only way they know how to cope. At least their life is worse than mine type. Like, but to the 10th degree, because they've had something ripped from them and they hate God, so now they hate everybody. The only way they're going to feel good is if everybody's messed up, and then you have the type of evil we see in the world. That's what prompts you to see all types of stuff, and then it starts with that ambition seed that spreads to other minds that are just going to go along with it because people are sheep. So what happens? Slavery, all kinds of debauchery, all types of evil, mistreatment of children, all kinds of stuff. It starts there. Indifference, simple indifference. And the devil takes it from there. He gets into your mind and your DNA and whatever that manifests within your skull. You know what I mean? That's how it goes. So I know that. It's spiritual warfare, but we don't know where the root is most of the time. We never know where it starts. We just know how it ends. We don't like it. We think it's happenstance. We think things are outside of our control. A lot of it is. But what we don't necessarily give credence to is the fact that something is in control of it. You know what I mean? Someone is in control of it. And some things can be avoided. So that's what it is. It's like, for me, all the wisdom in my heart, it's bumping gums. Because if I can't apply it to my life, I'm just a hypocrite. So to me, it's like, try to bring credence to the message, not the messenger, so that you understand that. I believe my words, but can I apply them? I hope so. But the one thing that I'm having a hard time overcoming is what's coming at me in my mind, how I perceive certain things, how best to not have that reactionary flinching, so to speak, in regards to the life I'm in. Reactionary flinching. You know what I mean? You think something's going to hit you in the head, so you go like that? That's what I'm constantly doing in various ways of stuff that probably isn't even there based on my perception. It's like, okay, I got to duck that because if I do this, then I'm going to find myself in that perception. And therefore, I'm going to be thinking. But see, I've only known myself to be a person who has the therefore I am thinking, to be negative thoughts. I want to, all those different things that are suggestive in negative ways. I don't know of myself in this positive light going through any other walk because I've never been positive. You know what I mean? I've never been a full-fledged praying person. I've never known the peace that allowed me to even do this. So what I perceive the world will be after coming through this, I have no idea. It's all new. Not to mention this channel and all of you who may recognize me, that I have never lived in a world where no one would recognize me for nothing other than people I know. Seriously, I don't know how that world looks or who all knows who I am. Maybe it's some really, really dope folks like you who know who I am, and it's like, dang. Nah, I don't know that world at all. I don't even know what that looks like, man. Funny enough, I'm the guy who believes himself to be talented and believes most people don't know it. I'm the guy that's used to not getting no applause for nothing. You know, like literally. Hey, a couple extra claps. Hey, I'm not the dude that was overly popular getting a lot of cheers. Nah. I just thought I was the dude that was doing dope stuff in the cut that nobody knew about. And I've always thought that most of my stuff, if it were to be truly appreciated, it'd probably be long after I was out of here. It's kind of how I've always looked at it. I never thought I would ever get any real appreciation, and still don't expect it. Don't expect it. I don't ask for it. I'd imagine I'd like it, but I don't think it'll make me stronger. Maybe. I don't think it'll make me stronger, because a lot of that will just cater to my ego, I guess. But like I said, a lot of that's the old me, so to speak. Don't know how I would perceive that stuff these days, especially since I've been praying prayers that would help against that ego. So to change and then to perceive how you will be in the world, it's a difficult thing. It's what I'm finding. I guess that's where I'm at right now. I know I've changed dramatically. What I don't know is how much for the better when I get back into those elements. How much of that old me will I be to feel like I'm at home in the places that I've been, around the people that I've been? Like, how much of the old me is necessary with all those bad thoughts and all those tendencies that I don't have no more? How much of that is necessary to even roam in the places that I've once been? That's what's really different, because I don't know that I've known myself outside of this place in any other way than just a depressed person that's had no direction, who's not productive at all, who has secret talents that nobody knows about, is afraid to share them. Somebody who has a chest that is not fully formed properly and can't get in shape for nothing, can't get his eating habits together. You know, like, there's a lot of perception things that have just changed, that are just not real no more. And I don't know who I am in that way. Truthfully, I don't know. So that's what I'm here to tell y'all. As I'm discovering the new me. I look in the mirror, I look at my hands, they're skinnier now. I look at my legs, they look different. Like, I'm somebody else. I'm skinnier now. It's weird, man. It's weird. But from the inside, I still feel like the same person. As I'm aging, my hairline's disappearing. You know, it's just a different me, and this is a me that none of my people know. My friends and my family, they don't know me looking like this. They don't know me feeling this way. They don't know a person who thought and prayed like this. They don't. This is a much better version. I'm a much better person than they knew, but I don't know how to break off some of those crappy habits of that old person and those crappy anxieties that still build up in his gut to fear things that should not be feared. I haven't shaken none of that off, and I don't know why. As disrespectful as it feels to God to live that way without faith, as we've said, I still don't quite understand why I'm so married to such baseless perception concerns that don't align with the risk that I open my mouth with every day when I speak on what I speak on. It doesn't make sense. And so I only come to say that I think the Lord just wants me to be this way, because otherwise it don't make no sense to be this way. Truth be told, just to have the anxiety and the concerns and the doubt, I think it holds some purpose. I think those traits are leading me somewhere. Or the war of that being in place is supposed to course me so towards some type of fate or someone or something. Because otherwise there's no reason to not have faith at this point. With as much as I'm leaning on that faith. Why would the anxiety otherwise be there if not for something in place on purpose? Something chemical. You know what I mean? It has to be something. That doesn't make any sense to me anymore. Standing on the edge and I'm scared. It don't make no sense. You know what I mean? Like, why would you even put yourself out there in the first place if you were scared? That's what I say to myself. You're scared. But it's not fear. It's that flinch. It's like a tick. You know, I don't want to disrespect, but it's like saying the bad words when you have Tourette's. It's like, I don't really have control over it, but I do, you know. It's that kind of thing. You know, it drives me to be home when I need to be out. It drives me to be away from people that I need to speak to. Seriously. And it's bad energy, too. It has to be. If it's going to coerce me away from loved ones, it has to be. But you know what that evil in my head does oftentimes? It gives me that good old conundrum that we started this video off with. You don't know what comes with want. You may want to talk to your people. You may believe it's wise to talk to certain people, but you don't actually know what happens when you do anything. It's just that great conundrum that allows me to stay in place and do nothing or whatever or something. You know what I mean? It allows you to do anything other than what it is you should, based on the understanding that you could, and it may go a different way. It's like those variables hold no weight because the outcome needs to take place. So if you're not going to course yourself one way, you're going to course yourself some other way. I can rationalize that. You know what I mean? And then I just go back to the idea that, well, it must be ego then. I must be holding myself here because I think I'm entitled to that. And it's like, well, that trait didn't hold me fair. That served me not. Like, when I was feeling that way as a child, I hated myself for being a spoiled child. My mother didn't particularly like that trait, and it messed with my perception in and of itself, hearing that I was spoiled and believing it and thinking there was something deficient within me for desiring things that were given to me. You know what I mean? It was like she blamed herself for spoiling me, but I didn't realize that I was taking on the insecurity of believing that there was a trait there that needed to be worked away from me that I otherwise couldn't. And that was entitlement, for which I probably struggle with in real life. But it was that also that paralyzed me in a way that made me feel like that's not something that anybody want to be around. So keep that away from others as well. It's a lot of that within me that keeps me away from others. It ain't them, it's me. It's traits that I don't want to share with others, perception, concerns that I think would ruin the room. I don't want to be a part of certain things, and it ain't got nothing to do with you guys, you know. And that's, I guess, you know, what makes me quote unquote wired to be this way. Wired just right to be exactly where I am at the right time, doing what I need to do. And so that's what it is. Instead of struggling with these traits, you just gotta learn how to be zen with them, you know. You just gotta flow with them, so to speak. And that's where I struggle, you know. But I'm learning that that's the next step for me. Is just flow with these struggles. Okay, this is what it is. All right, let's work with that. You know what I mean? Because for the longest time, that's been the problem, is not being able to work with that. Trying to pretend like there's no struggle. Boy, did I fail at that. So yeah, that's what I should probably end the video, man. 44. It's the 44th minute. Peace.